Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, the #1 YouTube channel to help you level up your 5 soft skills: public speaking, storytelling, social dynamics, emotional intelligence, creativity. 5 soft skills to help you change your life forever, skyrocket your confidence along the way. If you haven't already done so, go on and hit subscribe, because for today's episode, we are going to be having a little twist. We are going to be entering the wonderful world of creativity. But at first, this episode is going to feel like an emotional intelligence episode. I want you to stick through it all the way up until the end, because it is going to make a lot more sense. And I'm also going to explain how this tree, this big tree right here, connects with the episode. So let us get started. Recently, I ended up polling my audience, asking them what was the #1 problem that they were facing in their lives. And I got a bunch of different responses, but overall, from a lot of these responses, I noticed one underlying pattern. And this pattern basically dealt with confidence issues. Whether it was a confidence issue approaching a girl, whether it was a confidence issue speaking up more in class, whether it was a confidence issue in failing and still moving forward, it all tied into that basic principle. And here's an emotional intelligence formula that I want you to follow for life. A lack of confidence often means an abundance of anxiety. Let me say that again. A lack of confidence often means an abundance of anxiety. Think about it. How are you going to have self-esteem? How are you going to view yourself as your best self if you are always planning out your failures, thinking dark, negative thoughts, and always think that things are going to go wrong? You can't. That's why anxiety has a huge effect on your confidence. But why are you anxious? I mean, this is one of the best times in human civilizations to be alive. I mean, we have social media, we have the ability to connect with people from all around the world, we have food being delivered to us. I mean, there's so many different ways to be grateful for the era that we live in. How is anxiety on the rise? For plenty of reasons. Too many reasons to count. So in this episode, I'm just going to give you 3 main reasons, and I'm going to give you a cheat code in handling your issues. Reason number 1 is you consume too much. Consuming isn't a bad thing, but consuming too much is a bad thing. When you consume too much, you're bringing all this energy into your world, and when you fail to produce, all that energy is staying in your world. And unused energy will turn into anxiety. It doesn't make sense, but emotions often don't make sense. It's just what happens. So even if you're someone that reads a lot of books, if you're reading a lot of how-to books day in and day out and just going from book to book to book and never applying, you'll strangely feel more anxious, because you've put yourself in a state of analysis paralysis, and your mind is going to overthink on autopilot. So even something good like books, if you consume too much with it, you're going to bring on anxiety into your life. That's number 1. Number 2 is you hang out with negative people, toxic people. Here's the thing. Your subconscious mind is an emotional being. Your subconscious mind isn't thinking logically. It's thinking emotionally. And when the vibes are very negatively associated with the people that you're hanging out with, it's going to leave a sticky impression. And that sticky level of feeling will cause your conscious thoughts to be a lot more negative in the process, which is why often you're planning out failures even before you started it. That's one of the main reasons I want you to audit your squad. And it doesn't just even end on the squad. I mean, think about a lot of the items that you're consuming. Are you watching too much horror movies? Are you consuming way too much mainstream media? Are you just watching gossip and drama on TV? Because your subconscious mind is always awake and is watching. That's number 2. And number 3, this is by far one of the easiest to avoid, but you may not even know that it's causing you an issue. Clutter. If you have clutter in your life, I mean, just look around you right now. How many objects do you have that you haven't used in 3 weeks? If it's more than 5 objects, then you, my friend, you have a problem with hoarding. And hoarding just brings in a lot of bad vibes into your external world because it disengages you from your internal world. Those are 3 issues right there. The overconsumption, hanging out with toxic people, and clutter. These 3 things can easily be avoided. Number 1, consume only to produce. Number 2, stop hanging with toxic people. And number 3, dump out things that you don't use. Simple life is a better life. But remember how I said that I was going to make this a creativity episode, right? It's because anxiety, believe it or not, ties in with creativity. When you were first born into this planet, did anyone ever teach you how to daydream? How to imagine? How to be creative? No. When you were a little kid, I want you to evaluate something. Did you have that one action figure or doll that you used to play with? Because if you did, I want you to ask yourself why you played with it. What was the reason? It was just an inanimate object. But not to your younger self. To your younger self, this was an object that was a being. This was your friend. This was something that was fun. Why? It's because your imagination gave life to this inanimate object. You, my friend, at your core are 2 things. You are an emotional creature. No one ever taught you how to get angry, sad, happy, and all that. And you are an imaginative creature. No one taught you how to imagine. Why am I telling you this? Because think about it. Anxiety is when you are seeing stuff that has never happened. You're seeing negative stuff, you're seeing your failures happen, even though it has never happened before. That's your imagination at work. But why is your imagination going in a negative way? It's because your brain is naturally a negative leaning being. It sees things in a very, very negative light, not for a malicious way, but to help you out, to keep you safe. Our ancient ancestors, they needed the negative side of the brain to be alert for anything that can take their life. And now, in today's era, unused imagination paired with a natural inclination of the brain leads to anxiety. So what does this mean? This means if you don't use your creativity for good, your brain will use it for destruction. Which is why you need to use it for good. The reason that this was a creativity episode is because I'm going to challenge you for 2 weeks to have a creative outlet. 2 weeks. Whether it's drawing, whether it's storytelling, whether it's doing pottery, something. And believe it or not, this tree right here was the first time that I was ever creative. Right now, I'm actually back home at West Palm Beach where my parents live. I'm visiting them for a wedding that's coming up, and we have a lot of good family members. And coming back home, I realized that this tree was planted by me a couple of years back. My uncle gave me this tree and he told me, "Nephew, I want you to be more creative and I want you to plant this tree and I want you to take care of this tree." Well, that's exactly what I did. I planted that tree a long time ago and it was so small. Like, it came in like a little bag. It was like the size of my arm or so. And I planted it and I would take care of it every single day. And I was using my mindset to create. And as I was watering it, week in and week out, I noticed more and more leaves coming out of it. And the bark was getting bigger. And a few years later, that little branch turned into this massive freaking tree. Amazing. Humans are creatures that are supposed to create. They're not creatures that are supposed to produce consume non-stop. So that's my challenge to you. It doesn't have to be this tree, but it could be. But at the end of the day, produce at least one thing within the next 2 weeks that you are proud of. Then do it again, then do it again, and then do it again. And as you are doing this, you're going to notice that you are using your creativity to help you out. You're using your creativity like it was meant to be used in the first place, to produce masterpieces that will one day outlast you. If you like today's episode, and you liked how there was a unique twist between emotional intelligence and creativity, I highly recommend that you sign up to my free daily newsletter. In this newsletter, I constantly talk about the 5 different soft skills, and I give a very innovative, exclusive look into how the soft skills will affect your life and help you level up. With that being said, thank you for watching today's episode, and I will catch you on the next Armani Talks YouTube episode.